I think what people are afraid of is men telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies.
That's the autonomy value.
Yeah.
I get it, man.
Yeah.
I get it. And I think that there is a very real and valid argument here that autonomy should take precedence here. But I also think if we're being honest, there is an argument that life matters too. And that's the balance that people are trying to strike.
It's very complex, and
It's
people
super
don't want to
complicated.
look at it that way. I always discuss, when I talk about abortion, I say it's one of these very human issues where
That's
it's
right.
very strange, where most people think like at the moment of conception, if you could just remove those cells and keep them from multiplying, that's less bad than if you wait 6 months.
Right.
Like almost everybody would agree to that. So what are we doing then? Like
Right.
like Bill Burr has a great bit about it.
Yeah.
Have you seen Bill Burr's bit?
It's a very good bit.
It's fantastic.
And there is a moral intuition there that obviously like something that looks and feels like a baby is more valuable than
Right.
something that's just
Well,
looks
when
like
it has a
clump,
heartbeat, you
something
can
has
see-
a heartbeat, sure.
Look-
But I think the it's just hard, right? Because it's not clear to me philosophically where you draw the line here. It's a very like hard question to figure out, and I think that's why people debate it and disagree about it so vociferously. But it's interesting, man. The thing that I find, again, as a person who leans more in the pro-life side of this debate, is okay. So you will sometimes hear people on the left say, "Well, late-term abortion doesn't happen." Well, there's an organization called the Guttmacher Institute. It's a pro-choice organization. It's a abortion rights organization. And they found that there are approximately, I think it's 12,000 abortions that happen in the second half of pregnancy. So this is past 20 weeks. Maybe it's even past 22 weeks. About 12,000 abortions past 22 weeks, okay? They also found that of those, 8,000 of them are purely elective. There's no medical necessity. There's no the baby has some genetic abnormality. It's just pure elective late-term abortion. I don't know how we can't get consensus that that is not good.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Come on. And in fact,
Especially when it's not a medical necessity.
exactly. Every European nation has gotten to that point where you say, okay, like 8,000 late-term abortions, like come on. But again, it's not my decision as the vice president, and that's not President Trump's view. He's very against a national abortion ban because he wants this debate to happen organically and democratically. And I think that's kind of our attitude to this. Now, you're right. Again, there is a balance to strike here, but usually in American society, we recognize that the way to strike that balance is to debate it as citizens and not to have like lawyers and judges make these determinations for us.
Believe it or not, Joe Biden had one of the most logical takes on it a long time ago, back when he could talk real
Back
good.
when his brain wasn't fried?
And he said abortion should be safe, legal, and rare.
Well, that was my grandmother's view. Right, that was my grandmother's view. That was the Bill Clinton view.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's something that is really weird about this whole debate where, thank God, to be clear, this is not true of the gross majority of our pro-choice citizens, but you do sometimes see people, like they'll go on TikTok and they'll celebrate having an abortion.
Yeah.
Like I've known many, many women, usually when I was younger, who chose to have abortions because they felt like they didn't have any other options. And I don't judge them. I think that a lot of them just felt like they were completely trapped, and they made the decision that was ultimately right for them. Again, my argument is we need to try to gain those women's trust back because clearly the Republican Party on this issue has lost a lot of trust. But none of them were like baking birthday cakes and posting about it afterwards.
Right.
They recognize that this is a medical procedure, and this is something that they felt they had to do, but celebrating something like that is just bizarre to me. And I'm much more comfortable with the people who say safe, legal, rare than I am with the people who say let's shout our abortion from the rooftops.
Well, it's just this rebellion thing, and it's
Yeah,
also
no, that's
rebellion. Like the concept in the zeitgeist is that abortion had always been, Roe v. Wade had always been the law of the land, and then all of a sudden that was taken away, and you have these religious men who are trying to dictate what women can and can't do with their bodies.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, again, I understand that. I understand the pushback against that, But I think you can go, like with so many other issues, you can go way too far about it, and it becomes trying to celebrate something that at the very best, if you grant, I think, every argument of the pro-choice side, it is a neutral thing, not something to be celebrated.
I think there's very few people that are celebrating though.
I
It's
agree.
just the extreme
100%
weirdos,
agree.
the TikTok
Well, but it's like
people.
everything,
Yeah,
right? Where
right.
and I try, this is something that is dangerous about social media, is the danger of social media with me is not, to me, that I live in my own echo chamber and just have views reinforced. The danger is that I'm only exposed to the crazy people on the other side,
Right.
who make it easier for me to adopt my own worldview, because I'm saying, oh, it's just people celebrating, when in reality, like you said, most American women, even those who are pro-choice, are not celebrating this thing.
I think that's one of the insidious things about the social media algorithm, is that it highlights things that people engage with.
The more outrageous.
Which is more outrageous, more things that they find reprehensible. They see more of it. I see so many guys with makeup telling me they're going to take your kids,
That's
we're going
right.
to indoctrinate your
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Like, why am I seeing that? Well, it's because they're highlighting it. And when you have an app that's owned by China, that is the number
That's
one
like-
app. Is that a coincidence?
That's facilitating the worst of our fellow citizens, because it
Yeah.
allows us to silo more. But I mean, the way that I deal with that is I just try as hard as I can to remember that most Americans, this is what really bothered me about what Biden said, like, most Americans who vote for Kamala Harris are fundamentally good people. Like, I believe that. And you got to try to find the people who are reasonable and talk to them. And that's why I talk about, the importance of regaining trust, is just I've had enough conversations with people who don't like the Republican Party's, even their perception of the Republican Party's
Right.
views here, that if you talk to reasonable people, you gain a different perspective than if you talk to the unreasonable people.